What's up, ladies and gentlemen? It's me, Majora. And I'm out here today for a little bit of Q&A, the February 2022 edition. Very much excited to get to your questions and leave you some answers, but before I do, if you'd like to leave a question for next time, head on over to the Discord Sworn Brothers so you can become part of the Majority family and ask me a question in the Q&A thread. Also, I would love it if you subscribe to the channel. I got a lot of great gaming content on the horizon, and I'm not talking about the forbidden one on PS5. And also more Q&As, of course, for the viewers and listeners at home. If anybody listens and doesn't view, that's totally fine too. Last time we left off in January. It's time to close off February with some solid questions. The first one coming from none other than Revolver Axelot, a.k.a. Axel Wolf of Friendly Fire Gaming, who you should check out on YouTube. He also did a great collab with Alex of TurboZone. So, king of fighters right there. One of them. He wants to know, if you could make a video game movie, what game would your movie be based off of, and who would you cast? So I'm not like a movie buff or anything, so I actually had to do a little bit of groundwork for this question. But I would definitely say that I like the idea of shorts. I'm not talking about the kind you wear. I mean like short video projects. If anybody was subscribed to Nintendo on their YouTube channel, they used to do Pikmin shorts. They also used to upload them to the Switch hardware itself, and you could like pay for them or something. Or maybe that was on 3DS. I don't know. It's been a minute at this point. But I thought there'd be great potential for Animal Crossing shorts, like little skits and like funny things that happen. There'd be 5 main roles that I would want to cast for the Animal Crossing shorts. And they would have to encompass Tom Nook, the real estate agent who sells you your house, the villager, who's sort of the protagonist, the lead. I guess that could be, guy or girl. I only have a guy role planned out. Isabelle, who's sort of the makeshift mayor in the most recent Animal Crossing games. Blathers, who is the museum aficionado, except he hates bugs, so, that's kind of a thing. And then Mr. Rossetti, who I don't think is in the newest one, but is kind of a staple in the series. Tom Nook, I think, should be cast as some kind of sleazy guy who could, sell you on, something that you don't need and is going to get you further into debt. I'm thinking like a Ryan Reynolds would make a solid Tom Nook. Probably, get a good laugh out of upselling you on a piece of shit furniture too. So I don't know, there's potential there. The villager should be someone endearing, someone charming, someone that everyone's gonna like. So let's get Ryan's toy review. I don't know what his full name is. The guy who's the kid. I don't know. that was a throwaway. You put someone else in there. I don't know. Isabelle, I think we need somebody also who's kind of charming, who's funny, who people are going to like. And a little controversial isn't necessarily a bad thing. So I'm going Awkwafina. I don't know. I think she was really good in Raya the Last Dragon. So you know what? Throw Awkwafina as Isabelle. I think she'd make a funny mayor. So, Blathers, I think you need someone that kind of fits the part, somebody who has that kind of paranoid feel to them and kind of like that nervous dad-esque kind of feel. So I'm leaning towards either a Woody Allen Blathers or the guy from Honey, I Shrunk the Kids. I have his name here. It's Rick Moranis. Yeah, so I don't know. That one's interesting. And then lastly, for Mr. Rossetti, I think you need an Italian kind of godfather figure, somebody who's gonna boss you around and get pissed at you for resetting the game or something. And, there'd be some good comedic stuff there. So maybe Robert De Niro could be good for that role, or Al Pacino. I don't know. So that's my thoughts on the Animal Crossing shorts and kind of video game movie film adaptation. Do you think I made a decent lineup? Yes or no? And also, what would you cast for what video game, film/TV adaptation? Let me know. Great question, Axel. Love it. Hope you like the answer. Next question comes from VGMashUP. Oh yeah, we're about to mash it up today. We got a couple questions from the lad. What are your hopes and expectations for SMT VI? Let's start with that. I currently have none because I'm just so fresh off of SMT V, and it's such a new game. It took how many years to come out between SMT IV and this one? I guess if you're not counting SMT IV Apocalypse as its own standalone title, even though it very much is, you could say it's been like 7 years since Apocalypse, and I guess 10 since 4. So it's just such a long ways off, I wouldn't even know. I would imagine if there is an SMT VI, they'll be using the default engine at the time. Whether it's still Unreal or not is to be seen. I think that the visual thing was very much a selling point for this most recent SMT. Just the ability to see demons on the screen and interact with them. It's not like it's something you weren't able to do before, but it didn't have as much life in the mainline entries. And I think that it would need to stand its ground in terms of a visual appeal. Now, there is a second part to this question that I like, is what changes would I like to see? First off, the music should make a return to more of kind of like I think like a heavy metal / kind of like apocalyptic cultist feel. I guess it has to fit the theme, right? Because Nocturne was more culty and religious themed, whereas, 5 was more just like, the end of the world, quote unquote, but it's not like caused by a religious cult or anything. It is caused by like, demons and angels, without getting too much into specifics. So I guess it fit for 5. I just thought it lacked a lot of personality when standing next to the predecessors, Nocturne, for Apocalypse. I think that the soundtrack really needs to match, and I think that the story probably needs a little bit more life, ironically or unironically, because I think the biggest criticism for 5 has been its narrative, that it was maybe a bit shallow and not even like well composed to tell like a meaningful tale by the end. Now, I would contest that after having gotten the secret ending. I think that it gives a bit more context to like the type of world you create. I still think it could have been put together better, but I don't think it's like a sloppy mess necessarily that others may make it out to be. There could also be translation issues. I'm not sure. It's something I would need to research. But I do think that it is important that the foundation for a very strong narrative for SMT VI is there, and that it's really enticing and thought-provoking. I think that's what's so beautiful about Nocturne, is it was so well researched going into it, in terms of like just the idea of like the hollow earth and even Gnostic values, and I don't really see as much of that in SMT V. It just seemed a bit more plain Jane, if you will. So SMT VI, yeah, I mean, it's ironic because, or not ironic, it's just weird because like they have 5 years between the reveal trailer and the release of the game. So you'd think that the narrative would be a focal point or a bit stronger. It just wasn't. So a bit more style, a bit more substance, but goddamn, they got to keep that gameplay the same, and they got to keep the visual department like just as strong, because it was solid this time. I really liked it. Also, I like the worldwide release being like just about the same day. It was a day off, so I did kind of a teaser for American audiences or Western audiences. But I do think that it's important to maintain that kind of like global release and also cross-platform, because I like it on Switch, but I would play it on other consoles. So hope that answers your question. Thanks, VG. All right, Alex's worst nightmare, aka Terry309, has a bunch of questions, but he has one, then VGMashUP has one, and then we'll come back to him. That one's just water. I do have tea, though. What game series is VGMashUP the pope of? That's a hard question, because VGMashUP I see as kind of like a jack of all mash. He mashes, or mash of all trades, I guess you could say. He mashes all types of games together. And, for all types of systems, I see him as a Switch lover. I see him as like, a Sony fan extraordinaire. I do see him as somebody who advocates for like Microsoft Game Pass, etc. So it's hard for me to narrow down VGMashUP to any one, but I think above all, he really does like the Sony franchises. I just hesitate to put a Sony franchise to his name. Like, I wouldn't call him like the Uncharted guy. That just seems a little off. It's not like I see him talking about Uncharted all the time. You know what? I think he's just the Pope of Sekiro because he's really talked up that game and he seems to like it a lot. That's a hard one. I'd call him a console Pope, like a modern console Pope, a limited run Pope, a Switch collecting Pope. So, yeah, toughie. But I'll give him Sekiro, the Sekiro Pope title. How's that, VG? All right, VGMashUp has another question. What are some of my favorite Kirby games? Ah, yes, Kirby, the pink puff himself. I love a good pastry. Kirby is a classic and an endearing franchise. It's one that pretty much every title that you play is pick up and play friendly. But some I like more than others. I've always adored Kirby 64, maybe because I grew up with it, but I do find it has probably the most robust gameplay mechanic of all of the Kirby games and the combined abilities. And also, like, there's just so many combinations and so many cool kinds of power-ups you can get. The collectability aspects are not that great, but it's not a game that you have to 100% anyway. But if you do, the end boss is pretty rewarding. So I enjoyed Kirby 64 for all of those sorts of reasons. It's also just beautiful on the N64. N64 was a genre or an era of like a lot of 3D-esque gaming, and I feel like Kirby tried to retain some of that 2D appeal while bringing in the 3D graphics. It's kind of an interesting art piece in that respect. As far as the 2D games go, I do really like the Nightmare Before Dreamland on the Game Boy Advance. It was my first introduction to Meta Knight as a character, and I think it's a really good standalone 2D Kirby game. I also like Kirby's Dream Land, the first game. It's pretty nostalgic in many regards. It's like its first foray on the Game Boy, and it's a game you could play within an hour, but it's also just a fun time. It's a pretty well-made game, and although it doesn't have the copy ability, it's surprising how well it works without it. I've played other ones I liked. I played Return to Dreamland on the Wii. I think that's what it was called, Return to Dreamland. And that was a really good game. I just don't know if I'd call it a favorite. I have the Rainbow Curse on the Wii U. I'm not crazy about like holding the tablet with one hand and the stylus with another. It just doesn't, it's awkward in my hands. I like it conceptually. It just doesn't work as well on paper. But I think that the best ones are probably just the most straightforward ones. And those are some of my favorites. I'm also looking forward to the Forgotten Land. Is that what it's called? Or is that the Sonic game? The 3D one that's coming out. That's going to be a good time. So, yeah, favorite Kirby games for sure. Great question, VG. Okay, we got a bunch coming up from Mr. Terry309. All right, I have tea ready for Terry. Here we go. Ginger, turmeric. Healthy. What game series is SNESmapper the Pope of? Ease doesn't count. According to Terry, he hasn't played enough. I'll give him Ace Combat. I think it's a similar boat as VGMashUp. They're on a boat together. And SNESmapper kind of is a very modern gamer. I'd call him like the Pope of Steam. He has so many Steam collection videos and digital gaming pickup videos. I think he's really strong with those. Also, Resident Evil. He's the big Resident Evil fan. And, we had him on for the Resident Evil map out. So I do think of SNESmapper when it comes to that series. He's also, that was the first game he talked about for Game Talk. He said it was important to him growing up. And yeah, Resident Evil I would probably give to SNESmapper. What game series is Bawesomeburf the Pope of? Oh, the boss man. What is it? Gran Turismo? I think he really likes that racing genre. Now, of course, he's really strong on the RPGs as well. I think I'd give him... That's a tough one. I don't want to give him the wrong one. So I got to think about that for a second. I'm going to come back to that. Have I ever sat on a Sega Saturn? I'm going to need more tea for this. Hell no. Is igotkings the Pope of Dragon Quest? Yes, I would give him that title. He knows Dragon Quest very well. I think he could use a little bit more foundational knowledge for the spin-off titles, but I know that he knows every mainline game really well. He's played them multiple times, multiple versions. I got Kings. He's got Kings on Dragon Quest, that's for sure. Oh, you know what? Let's give Bawesomeburf the Final Fantasy Pope title. I would give him that. He may not have played well, I don't know his history with 15 or anything, but I know he knows the mainline ones really well, going up to probably 12 or 13. I was going to say Phantasy Star, but I think Final Fantasy would suit him better. Okay, moving on. Which game company disappointed me the most? A game company that disappointed me? Oh, that's probably easy, and I don't necessarily know I can allocate blame to the company itself. It's more so to parent companies, so I guess I might blame the parent company, and that would be Square Enix, but the company I'm thinking of is more so Taito. What the hell happened by the time they got to Furu Furu Park? They were arcade classic shmup shooter, company. They had a lot of classics, the Taito compilations. And by the time Furu Furu Park came around, it just seemed like a gimmick and a bargain bin title. It's just, and what have they done since then? So I've been very disappointed in Taito in that regard. I do really like a lot of their classics. I like the Darius series. There are some recent Darius revivals. They're damn expensive, hard to get a hold of. But Taito, yeah, that one, that's a little heart crushing. I would have said Rareware, but I can kind of overlook their legacy with what they've brought to the Xbox name just by being affiliated with them, and the fact that Xbox doesn't just sit on them, they actually give Rareware kind of a spotlight. It almost seems like Rareware has now become synonymous with Xbox as a brand. I can't explain it, but I appreciate it. I appreciate they get some love. Is there a Pokemon Coliseum map coming out someday? For you, Terry, yes, but on the condition that Alex needs to be kickstarted enough money to get a copy or something. I don't know, or because he's not going to buy it. That's why I'm not saying anything about his wealth, but he's not going to buy it for the sake of mapping it out. Just saying. Will Mario ever defeat the evil Boo? Oh yeah, totally. Has Link found out how to beat Ganon? Yes. Is there a book that details the legacy of Chin? Now, I figured out that's a Hong Kong 97 reference. Is there a book about it? I'm going to lean towards no. What video game character would be your drinking buddy? Well, I want a character I can trust that's not going to get me too drunk or anything, or going to be responsible enough, take me home at the end of the night or something, so but I also want somebody that is down to go to the bar and have a good time. I'm leaning towards Kazuma Kiryu. I feel like he'd be a responsible drinker and somebody cool to hang out with and somebody that could hold down his tea, if you know what I mean. Solid questions, Terry. All right, Bio Phoenix. What up, Bio? What is a game that you loved playing the first time, but when you did another playthrough, you did not enjoy it as much? Note, I don't mean one you think is bad, but one that you still like it enough, but not as much as you did before. Got it. I have the perfect game in mind, and I don't even replay that many games. I do like replaying games I love. But the one that comes to mind is definitely Super Mario Galaxy. I played it 3 times from start to finish in my life. And I think each time I've liked it less and less. The first time was good. It was worth experiencing as a first-time game. The second time, I did it to get Luigi, and then I just stopped, and I kind of just didn't care, and I had a bit more frustrations with a couple of the bosses. There's one top man. Yeah, he sucks. And I think there's another one too. It's a weird boss, but there's a couple stages like that. Then I played it again for the map out, and I think that's when I became the most jaded towards it, and I just found a lot of it lackluster, especially when put in comparison to the other 3D Mario titles. They just feel while Galaxy feels inspired, it feels inspired by the hardware and not so much in terms of level design. Oddly enough, it's weird because each one is a unique challenge and they vary the challenge, but there's not as much love or character to each world that you can really affiliate yourself with. I don't go yeah, I'd love to go to Battle Rock Galaxy, to hang out with the Toads. No. But again, Galaxy has kind of paved the way for the other Mario games, and I haven't played Galaxy 2, so that's one I would be interested in trying one day. Give some thoughts and feedback or comparisons for. It's a great question. The self-proclaimed Sega Pope himself, otherwise known as Sonic Papa, Alex of TurboZone, has left me a scenario. Scenario. The world has been flung into chaos. Chaos control. Cats and dogs living together. The American healthcare system isn't a joke. And Alex and Spencer agree on gaming opinions. In this new world of disorder, get it? The new world disorder. Nintendo, Microsoft, and Sony have decided to trade franchises. What franchises from each company would you like to see the other companies develop, and why? Example, Microsoft develops Kirby, Sony develops Gears of War, and Nintendo develops The Last of Us. Wow. A very imagined scenario. It's the end of the world is nigh. Or it's the beginning. It's a whole new world of disorder. There has to be a three-way trade here so that every company gets represented. So, it wouldn't be like, Microsoft and Sony switch, because then Nintendo will be by itself. So my rationale here was that Microsoft gets a Nintendo game, Nintendo gets a Sony game, and Sony gets a Microsoft game. And here's why. I think that a lot of series remain dormant for Nintendo, and that Microsoft, while they may not bring new life to those games a lot, do give them airtime. So I gave Nintendo to Microsoft. With Sony, I feel like they have kind of a similar issue with a lot of their flagship titles in terms of maybe they get some representation, but there hasn't been a lot of love since the PS2 era. And now that in the modern day, they just, I don't know. It's like all about like big AAA budget titles for the most part. And I think that Nintendo has some expertise in that genre of the types of games that Sony is renowned for. Now, Sony, just give them Microsoft. I don't know. I think that also like there are some interesting games within the Microsoft universe that like have either fallen flat or not gotten the attention they deserve that Sony could do something for. So let's go into the individual games. I want to give F-Zero to Microsoft. The alternative would be Cruisin'. I think that Microsoft handles those kind of arcade racers pretty well, and Cruising would be a good fit for Microsoft. But F-Zero, has just been so dormant. And Nintendo's so stubborn at this point about bringing GX anywhere. All Microsoft would need to do is just publish it. That's it. It's pretty much just halfway there. It's already got the Sega name attached to it. And Xbox has so many Sega titles on their system. And then they would do a lot of cool things too. Like, could you imagine like a leaderboard and stuff on the Xbox? That would be like just the biggest upset of the century. Is like F-Zero gets, acclaimed by Microsoft and put on the Xbox Series Zeta. All right, Nintendo. It was between two, and I was thinking like either Sly Cooper or Jak and Daxter. Now, I guess both do get some attention on like maybe PS3, PS4 has the Jak and Daxter collection, but like we just seen no really new game out of the Jacks since PS 2 or 3, and same thing for Sly Cooper. And I think Jak and Daxter would fit well on the Switch. Already, the Crash Bandicoot series or trilogy got ported to Switch, and as well as like the CTR game, and I think that it would just be a natural fit. Sly Cooper's a bit more obscure, but again, Sony does nothing with it, so that one's a toss-up. But I would go Jak and Daxter for Nintendo. Sony could, and it came down to two series for me that I think need some kind of attention, and they are Fable and Blue Dragon. Now, Fable is kind of a mess, and I don't know that giving Fable to Sony would necessarily solve any problems, but it's a thought. They could take Fable. Now, Blue Dragon, I think, is a much more natural fit because Sony tends to have that kind of like JRPG moniker, like the system for JRPGs, although that's kind of being taken over by Switch. Blue Dragon just seems like it would be a good fit on a Sony console, and I think that they'd have potential to do something with it. Don't know. That's a tough one. But that's kind of my logic and my rationale. What do you think? Does that make sense? Would you do something similar? What games would you substitute? Great question, Alex. AKA Sega Pope. Okay, and last one closing us off is Malta Master. When can we expect to see any shorts on your channel, if ever? Well, unfortunately, I'm wearing sweatpants right now, but maybe in the summer season. No, I think you're talking about YouTube shorts, ain't you, bud? I don't really know how to do them. I think maybe if I just make a clip that's under a minute and then upload it, it counts as a short. I don't know. You're going to have to teach me on that one. But I don't tend to work in terms of the shorter clips. I do like making clips, but I don't think most of my clips fit in under a minute. I tend to talk a lot, and maybe that's for better or worse. I'm not sure. But that's going to do it for questions for this month. Questions for the next episode. We'll start here. Great episode, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you enjoyed. Thanks for staying tuned, and be sure to subscribe for some more quality Majora content. See you soon. Laters. Stay chill, y'all. Oh, look, Terry's getting some in. Oh my, whoa, we got a little toss up here. VGMashUP and Terry are typing. Oh, we got a sneak preview for next episode. This is great. I'm just watching now. Enjoying this. This is live commentary. I'm deliberately not answering these questions. You're gonna have to wait, Terry. Oh, we got some thought-provoking stuff. Later. Stay chill, y'all.